It's David here from the Folding Towers podcast. Before we dive into this episode, a quick shout out for the Soft Tissue Therapy Congress 2025, organised by the Melbourne Institute of Massage and Myotherapy. It's happening on Sunday, 26th of October at La Trobe Uni in Bundoora, Victoria, and it's set to be a great day of learning and connection. You'll hear from speakers like Sarah Nemi on exercise prescription, Kylie Hicks on working with complex pain, and Alicia Crook on building a thriving clinic. Plus, Jackie and I will be up there doing a live Folding Towers podcast Q&A. It's a full day of learning and fun. Come say hi, and it counts as 7 CPE points to your annual obligation. Grab your tickets by visiting mimt.edu.au or follow the link in the show notes. Hello and welcome back to another exciting episode of the Folding Towers podcast. I am David as always. Jackie is still asleep. We are on an early morning call this morning with a special guest. My guest today is David Lobenstine, a massage therapist, teacher, writer and editor with more than 20 years of experience. After completing his degree at Vassar, David trained at the Swedish Institute in New York and went on to build a thriving practice in the heart of Manhattan. And over the years, he's worked with everyone from Broadway performers to brand new mums to athletes to grandparents. David is an educator teaching continuing education workshops across the US and online with titles like Pour, Don't Push and The Solution is in the Sides, programs designed to help therapists work with less force and more presence. He's also a regular contributor to Massage and Bodywork magazine and co-author of the textbook recently released, Pre- and Perinatal Massage Therapy, alongside Carol Osborne and Michelle Kolakowski. David brings honesty, curiosity, and a rare blend of head and heart to this profession, and I'm really delighted to have you here today. Welcome, David.
Well, thank you so much, David. That's a better bio than I could have written myself. Nicely done.
We are starting off with the most important question that all of our listeners here on the Folding Towers podcast love to hear. It's a tricky one. Can you tell us who your favorite superhero is and why?
Oh, it's not a tricky one at all. I always found Superman terribly boring because, invincibility is very boring. Batman was super cool, except then I realized that he was just a rich guy with a lot of toys. So the clear favorite for me growing up as a scrawny kid in New York City was Spider-Man.
Nice. Any particular of the Spider-Mans?
I mean, when I was, young, it was just the original comic book, which suited me just fine. So now that my kids are grown and they're like 17 versions, I think they're partial to the Miles Morales version, which I think are a pretty unbelievable feat of movie making and of character reinvention. Like, I think they are like such a phenomenal genre bending project. But I kind of still like the comic books.
Nice. So 20 years within industry, what is it that inspired you to become a massage therapist?
I still don't know. I'm embarrassed to say. I have not even been able to fake an answer to this. I mean, honestly, I went to undergrad and I was an English major. And so what do you do when you have graduated with an English degree and you move back to New York City where you grew up and move back in with your mom? You get a job working in publishing. So I worked in book publishing for years. And then I realized at one point, my boss said, like, I'm going to retire in like 10 years. You could take over the office when I retire. And when she said that to me, I had this like knife in the heart moment of realizing like, oh my gosh, I could spend my entire life behind a desk. Yeah. And so then I realized this is not what I want to do. And I literally saw a flyer like on a lamppost for an open house at the Swedish Institute, which is one of the oldest and most remarkable massage schools in the country. And I went to the open house and I fell in love. And so I really I can't explain it beyond that. My parents certainly couldn't explain it. They had a lot of questions about why I was throwing away a very, very good and rather expensive undergrad education in English to, rub people. But thankfully they've come around since then. And yeah, I just I started school and never looked back. I
It's a
think
calling.
there's yeah. And I think the only thing that I've been able to figure out is there's something about the combination of being able to work with mind and body and spirit, however it is
Mm,
that we define spirit, simultaneously, and being
yeah.
able to do something that integrates all three of those kind of vital elements of our humanness. Just it feels like a great gift.
Mm.
And I feel very, very lucky all these years in to be able to, work with people on all those different levels of mind, body, and spirit.
Yeah. Do you think it will be your career for life?
Yes, I mean,
Yeah.
barring something awful.
Yeah.
uh, but yeah, I mean, I love seeing my clients, and I love teaching, and I love
Mm,
writing about massage. So I still do book editing on the side, like I do it as a freelancer, just working with individual
mhm.
authors, and that's wonderful. And I would love to continue, that for a very long time too. But yes, I cannot imagine a life without massage.
Yeah. Beautiful. It was probably 2 years ago. We were interviewing another guest, and I made the comment at that time. I don't feel guilty that massage may not be my career for the rest of my life. But it's only recently as we've been doing some retirement planning, and retirement's not that far away in the scheme of things.
Yep, yep,
Potentially
yep.
15 years. And I'm starting to think, but yeah, I don't think I want to have any other career. And I certainly don't want to
Mm,
go back to driving a desk, being stuck in
hmm.
an office with the grind. And I'm becoming more
Yeah,
comfortable that actually career massage actually might be my rest of my life career.
yeah, yeah. It's a wild possibility. I mean, one of my mentors is Carol Osborne, who
Mm,
did a lot of foundational work in prenatal massage, and she just retired this year after 50 years
mm,
as a massage therapist. And so I don't know. I mean, if I look at her example, man, I got a long time ahead of me.
yeah, 50 years.
Yeah, isn't that
Yeah,
incredible?
that would take me to
Yeah,
the age of 86
there
if
we
I was
go.
massaging.
Yeah, I mean, it's a while yet, but who knows?
Mm,
Who knows? I mean, I feel like when we work in concert with our bodies and we really listen and work, effectively with our bodies, there's no telling what we can do.
yeah, yeah. But what were some of the early influences that shaped your work?
Uh, I would say that the biggest and most enduring influence after I graduated from massage school was not about massage, but on a whim, I signed up with an instructor at my massage school for a series of classes on Tai Chi.
Mm,
And so for the next year, he taught one of the slow forms, so one of the yin forms of Tai Chi. So it's like a sequence of 48 moves that you do over, I think it was probably like a 15 or 20-minute period. And we went through one move at a time. It took us a whole year of weekly classes
mm,
to get through it. And that has completely shaped how I give every session. And
mm-hmm,
so all of my massage work and a lot of my teaching work is basically adapting principles of Tai Chi into the massage session, so that we can work with our breath, so that we can work with our body weight, so that we can avoid overworking ourselves and therefore work in a way that's effective for the client and that is also effective for us as the therapist.
mm-hmm. My first exposure to massage training, everything was about being hunched over the table and getting in with
Yep.
thumbs and leaning on the client, and all very bad posture in the pursuit of strength. And when I
Yep.
changed schools, my educator there, he's still active in massage too at the age of, he's almost 80. And
Oh, there you go.
yeah, Tai Chi stance, very flowing,
Yeah.
powerful moves, but yes, slow, purposeful, and the body positioning was all very particular. So different to what I'd originally learned within that sports
Yeah.
background.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's yeah, I mean, I find it's this place of endless curiosity for me that, I really do believe that we can feel good in our own bodies as we give massage.
Mm.
We don't have to be hunched over. We don't have to kill ourselves.
Yes.
We don't have to injure our thumbs, and even, all of my work is relatively deep work. I do primarily deep tissue massage and myofascial release. And so it's working very deep and a lot of thumb
Mm.
work for that matter, right? But it's really, the work comes from the whole body, and the hands are just the manifestation of what the whole body is doing.
Mm-hmm. So today we'll be talking in more detail about falling back in love with massage with David. Before we get into that detail, can you talk about a setback in your career that has become a valuable lesson to you?
Uh, yeah, the very first session that I ever gave at a wellness center that I really liked, and like I really wanted to do a good job for them. And it was like a very fancy place. They worked with a lot of like Broadway like dancers and actors, and so I was really pumped. And I came in for my first day, and there was only one massage on the schedule, and it was like 4 hours from when I arrived. And so I think I literally just sat in the room, and I got like more and more amped up, and I literally started the massage, and I did, like effleurage down the back, and I got this crippling mid back pain. I can
Oh
still feel
no.
that, like, knife sharp blade of pain going across my mid thoracic. And I had this thought of like, oh my gosh, like my career has just started and it has just ended like on the same
Yeah.
day, because I'm never going to be able to give a massage again.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, I sort of like limped my way through the massage, and, I made it through, and the guy didn't seem terribly disappointed, but it has been a really incredible lesson to me about how much we can get ourselves into trouble, right, when we're giving
Mm.
massage. And therefore, I think the corollary is there's also a lot that we can do to get ourselves out of trouble, right? And,
Mm. Mm.
that session, it was all of my hours of anticipation and like wanting so badly to do a good job,
Yes.
right? That I just got myself into this terrible trap. And so I have really cultivated, or I have tried to cultivate ever since then, just a sense of detachment, right?
Mm.
Which, sounds counterproductive to a lot of massage therapists, right? Because we love our work so much and we care so much about our clients. But I think it's been incredibly valuable to realize, like, me anticipating the session ahead of time, right? Me, worrying about it or over planning or everything, it doesn't do any good. And what I can do that will be the best for the therapist, sorry, the best for the client, is when I'm in that room with them, they are the only thing in mind. They are the center of my attention. I give them what I can, and then I leave, and they are able to get on with the rest of their life.
Mm.
And that kind of keeping that distance or keeping that detachment between me and the client, I think, has been incredibly valuable. I
Mm-hmm.
love
Mm-hmm.
my clients. I've been working with some of them for almost 20 years, and I have great relationships with them, but I'm very clear that I'm here for a specific purpose. I'm not their friend. I'm not going to fix them. I'm not going to solve their problems.
Mm-hmm.
We are engaging in this very specific relationship, and hopefully I am enabling their own body to live with a bit more ease, but I'm not
Hmm.
fixing anything. I'm not taking their problems away from them,
Yeah.
and so I think that perspective has been really, really valuable to me. It was a terrible setback in the moment when I thought I would only give one massage in my entire life, but it has been, yeah, it's been a good one.
Yeah. I've been a subscriber to your email list for many years, and I really love that the emails that come through are very personal. Like I'm receiving a letter from a friend, and throughout the pandemic, you wrote some of these beautiful stories. One was about your daughter and some big emotions. As a father of a daughter as well, it really yeah, it hit home. But you also
Mm.
wrote a lot about your decision making process. Um, and part of that, I remember when the pandemic hit and you closed your New York practice, you moved back to Vermont, and then this decision making of wanting to come back to New York. So, what did that feel like? Not just logistically, but emotionally.
It was, really, really intense. I mean, as we know, right? We all, I think we all suffered in one way or another from a pretty global trauma, right? That we
Mm,
all were, I don't know, all felt to varying degrees, right? Depending on our particular circumstances. Um, and I was utterly destroyed to have to close my practice, even though I knew it was the right thing to do. I didn't question that. My priority was to, keep my family safe and to figure out, alternate ways to provide for them. And we were able to move up to Vermont. My wife's family is up here, and we actually moved into a cabin with that her grandparents had built in the 1960s
mm,
in the middle of the woods with her sister and brother-in-law and their two kids. So we, created a pod. We basically like homeschooled our kids for many
mm,
months, and it was awful because the world felt like it was falling apart, but it was also really beautiful because we were able to prioritize, care for the people right next to us. So it was both wonderful and terrible.
yeah.
And then as I started thinking about massaging again, um, I realized that my heart was still in New York, and I loved my private practice dearly, and I also just didn't want to start another one. um,
Mm,
so my wife very generously said, you've uprooted your life, right? I had only lived in New York until
mm,
until then, until I was 42 or whenever it was that 2020 happened. And she said, "Why don't you just try going back?" So my practice was closed for 15 months.
mm.
So then in August of 2021, so 15 months after shutdown, basically,
Yeah.
um, I reopened, and so now I go back down from Vermont to New York City for 3 days every other week. So
Mm,
every
mm.
other Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and I pack in as many clients as I can. I take really good care of my body, and then I come back home.
Yeah.
So it's very, very bizarre
Yes.
as a way to situate my life, and it has worked marvelously well.
Yeah. And you do some very long days, 10, 12
Yes.
hours of massage in a
Yep.
day.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. But again, I mean, it's not an understatement to say that it's all about the Tai Chi
Yeah.
principles. It's that you mentioned the course for don't push, and that was my first attempt, that course, of which now there have been many, many different iterations, but that is basically the idea of using your body weight as much as you can and your musculature as little as you can, right? To
Mm.
pour your body weight into the client rather than push with your muscles to create each stroke. And
Yeah.
that's how I'm able to, to do 10 or 12 hours of massage in a day.
Hmm. There's this common, I'm going to say, guilt of massage therapists, of feeling that they need to do so many things in a massage session to feel like they've been the ones to create change
Yeah.
in a client's body. And I will often chat with my clients, and there comes a point where they just naturally fall silent, and I'm able to go into a state of flow with them. And that's where the magic happens. Where as a therapist, I'm doing very little with them, and they have the opportunity to do the most remarkable things within themselves for the healing
Yep.
to happen. The less that I try to do, the more things work.
Yeah. Yeah. It is. Yeah, that is very well said. And I think it is continually amazing to me to realize how much we can get in our own way, right? When we try to make change happen,
Mm.
it just doesn't work all that well.
Yeah.
I think, obviously we can dig and dig and dig with all of our, with all of our muscular effort, and we can, give ourselves a headache because we're tensing our shoulders so
Mm.
much as we work. And maybe we can affect, a little bit of temporary change in the client. But more often than not, I just find that, they revert back to their old patterns because we haven't enabled a real shift in their bodies. We have just tried to force something, onto them. And
Mm.
so I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a really interesting combination of working hard, because I do work hard. I give deep
Mm.
pressure, right? And I work hard and that I'm very engaged and focused on each client, right? But I'm not working hard in the sense of physically taxing myself, right? Because
Mm.
I am very clear that my own body and my own health and my own happiness are as important as the client's body and health and happiness, right?
Mm.
And sometimes I joke with my students in the classes I teach that, that our bodies are actually more important than our clients' bodies, right? Which,
Mm.
makes everybody, like, there's a lot of nervous laughter,
Yeah.
right, when I
Yeah.
when I say that. But, I think it is true in a way, right? Because,
Hmm.
like, if you injure yourself working on the client who's
Yeah.
right in front of you right now, then you've got nothing to give your next client, right? Or your
Mm.
client, the first day next week, or, all the other ones in the future.
Yes.
Right? So, like, our primary responsibility has to be with taking care of our own body, and that's how we enable all the good stuff to happen with our clients.
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to talk about falling back in love with massage. We've talked a few times now with other guests about burnout, including a recent episode with Laura Jane Layton, who was talking with us about silencing the inner critic and self care from
Mm-hmm.
the inside out. And we do see burnt out husks of therapists, and they don't know what they want to do with their life. They've got these skills, but they just don't feel the love for the profession anymore. Um, so when you made that decision to move or to reopen in New York, and I remember reading the emails, is this thought process, there's some nervousness about it, and how going to make the logistics work, and all those things add pressure to a profession that you love, pressure that can really spoil things. Um, Reopening, what is it that really brought that love of massage back to you? What did that mean to you? Was it joy? Was it relief? Was it surprise? Um, how did that look for you?
I think it was all those things.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, there was the very the very practical matter of, having relied on income from massage, since 2004 when I graduated from massage school. So it was really hard to, live without it for 15 months. I did some online teaching and some editing stuff and, what the like, to supplement, but it was definitely challenging. So there was just alone the financial relief was substantial to know that I'd be able to actually earn income from my work again. But then I think the biggest thing was just feeling that I was back to doing what my body is meant to do. Right. There was such a joy in being able to return to my treatment room and being able to feel like I was whole again, right? I mean, I think we probably have lots of different versions of this experience, depending on how much time we took off or what have you during shutdown and thereafter. But I did feel like I was not fully embodied for the 15 months that I was not practicing, right? It felt like I was just part of myself and not all of myself. And so it was quite incredible to realize that my body really thrives in this work. And so not only did my clients appreciate it, because they certainly did, to have me back, but also that, I appreciated it. And it was a really remarkable confirmation for me of how much I love this profession and this work, and how, it literally is just, it's inside of me, right? It's at the center of who I am.
Yeah. Well, this, I think, has given some inspiration to one of your recent courses, Give a Great Massage Again. What was that spark or the turning point for rediscovery into teaching this?
So the course itself is very simple. It just goes through what I consider to be my sort of standard template of a 60-minute full body deep tissue massage that's kind of applicable to, pretty much anyone. So I teach like 35 techniques that I sequence together over the course of an hour-long session. But the underlying heart of the course is about how you can pay attention to yourself while you pay attention to your client. And I think, to me, the longer I work, that's the essence of giving a great massage, right? When we can hold both of these realities in our hands and in our hearts at the same time, right? That we are important and our client is important. And it's when we're holding those two together that, like you said before, that's when the magic happens, right? And so I think I wanted to create this course in part because of the pandemic and because of coming back from it and sort of, realizing how central massage was to my life. And also because I think, like you said before, there are all these people in our profession who are good therapists and who have a lot to give, and yet are, either burnt out or on their way to, right, being burnt out. And I think that there's a lot we can do to shift that course and to, right, help those therapists, right, feel that love for that profession, to feel that enthusiasm in their bodies, and thus to be able to give a great massage again.
Yeah, therapists often wrestle with fatigue or even resentment of the job, particularly when in that corporate session of how many people can you get on the table in one day. The pressure's on to earn to earn. And well, this is our profession. We do need to earn money, but the when we shift from the notion of the therapist to that of the accountant, I guess things start to get a bit spoiled.
Yep.
So how do you help people to move from that place of another client to I can't wait to get my hands on this work again?
Right. Right. I mean, obviously it's tricky,
Mm.
right? There's no way around it, right? Like getting your heart back, right, into this work is not easy. And I think that's the first thing to realize, that it's a long process and it's a slow process. It's not going to happen overnight. But I think that the way that I see it is our path back to loving this work, to giving a great massage again. It happens in three parts, right? It happens through our body, it happens through our brain, and it happens through our breath, right? And so those three parts, I think, are intertwined, but it's helpful to think about them distinct, pieces of this puzzle, and then we can see more easily how they fit together. So I think the most obvious one, the body, right? I think the way we can love our work again is by making the work easier on us. And so that means paying exquisite attention to our body mechanics, to the way we are contacting the client. And we can talk about that as well, for as long as we have time to, because that's an endless topic, right? But then the second way that I think is less discussed, but is just as important, is through our brains, right? And so in that case, I think probably quite similar to the guest that you mentioned a few minutes ago about silencing your inner critic. I think that a huge part of our work in getting back to loving this work is just accepting that we don't always love this work, and that that's okay. And there can be some days that are hard, and there can be some sessions that are just crappy, right? That where you just don't give your best. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad person, and it doesn't mean that you should, find another career, right? It's just the reality of the situation. So I actually think that one of the greatest things we can do for ourselves is we can be easy on ourselves. We can forgive ourselves more, and we can judge ourselves less, right? And so I'm a big advocate, and I teach in my course just very simple mindfulness principles that we can keep in mind as we're working, right? Inevitably, as we're working, we're going to get distracted. We're going to, start thinking about the grocery list of stuff we need to get on the way home. And right, we're going to, think about the next Netflix show we want to watch, right? There are no ends, right, of ways that our brains can distract us. But again, if we respond to that with self-judgment, that doesn't accomplish anything, right? So I think, again, the key is to be mindful, to acknowledge our wandering, to acknowledge our frustrations, to acknowledge all the ways that our brain can try to derail us, and then to just be easy on ourselves and bring our focus back into the session, right? And so then the way we do that is, I believe, the third portion of getting back to this love of massage again, and that's through our breath. So if we can be attentive to our body mechanics with, right, taking care of our body, if we can take care of our brains by silencing that critic, like you said, and by being more compassionate to ourselves, right, then I think the thing that really ties all of this work together is our breath. And we know scientifically that if we focus on our breath, we slow down, we're
Mm-hmm.
easier on ourselves, we have more of a chance of engaging our parasympathetic nervous system, right? That rest and digest portion of ourselves, rather than getting caught in that sympathetic activation, that fight or flight response that we tend to spend so much of our lives in.
Mm-hmm.
So the more we can slow down our breath and slow down that easy exhalation, we can shift our state, both mentally and physically, right? And I think over time, that's how we get back to a place where we are just with our client for that hour, right? We know that distractions are inevitable, but we know that we always have a way back in via our breath to this very moment, to doing this work. And I think that's how we find our love again.
Mm-hmm. I went through a bit of a slump a few years ago, and we shared off air about how massage here in Australia has been impacted by some of the decisions of our government, and one of those impacts is therapies or modalities such as physiotherapy are very well researched within the academic space. And massage here in Australia is delivered through private institutions. It hasn't kept up, certainly in the Australian field, with modern research. And massage has been left behind in many ways. And I remember feeling this great deal of, I guess, resentment for the industry, that there was so much woo out there, things which could be combined into and called massage or poses massage. And I decided at that time that I was going to science my way back into loving massage. And all I did was learn to hate it more. And I was chatting with one of my clients at one point about the evidence base, and he's an anesthesiologist, and he goes, I wouldn't worry too much about the evidence based. In anesthetics, there's no evidence for what we do. I thought, this is a bit interesting. I said, well, how can we make someone unconscious when we don't even know where consciousness is?
Oh, sure,
So
sure.
we know how to use. We don't know how anesthetics work, but we know how to use them safely. And I was like, this little light bulb moment of, okay, well, first of all, that's a bit scary.
Yeah.
Isn't that interesting that we can still do things and make change without having to know the intricacies of why things are happening? And I was in this course on acupressure where the instructor is demonstrating technique, and it's all very silent, very still. And then he kind of nods his head. That was interesting. And I'm screaming out internally, going, "What was it?
Right,
What was
right.
it?" I haven't opened my mouth, and he looks at me and he goes, "Shh, you'll spoil the magic."
Very nice.
And I love the intrigue that sometimes stuff happens. When it does happen, it's very cool. We don't have to force it, but the client's body will do the things that it knows and needs to do in the time that it's ready to do it. And that letting go is very freeing as a therapist. Letting go of those expectations.
Yep. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. Yeah. I think we have, at least among my very well-meaning therapists that I teach here in the States, I think we have an interesting ego problem, right? Which is that we often position ourselves as these selfless people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And our only purpose is to help other people feel better. And that's all well and good, but it oftentimes ignores the fact that we really, really, really want to make people feel good.
Yes.
Right. And that actually we have a lot riding on the idea of being, selfless. And actually, it really does matter to us right? When that we can make people feel better. And oftentimes that means we try to force our clients to feel better,
Mm,
which, as we've been talking about, I think doesn't accomplish anything at all. And or at least doesn't accomplish as much as not forcing can
mm-hmm,
accomplish. Right. And so I think when we can be more honest with ourselves, and we can admit that of course we have an ego, because everyone has an ego, right? But that actually then we can recognize that we are going to choose to not force or not try to force our clients to change. And we
mm-hmm,
can work with them and not over them. Right. And I think, interestingly, I think actually, if we let that happen, it can be very freeing. Right.
mm-hmm,
Just like you said, and I think at least some of the folks who are veering towards burnout, or who are stuck in burnout, are there partially because they have tried to exert that control, right, so much over their clients. And so, I think part of the benefit of focusing on the brain in particular, and focusing on the breath, right, is just to cultivate that ability to just be present in massage, rather than to try to make something happen in the
mm.
massage.
If a therapist listening right now is feeling flat, what's the very first small step you'd recommend that they take tomorrow morning or even this afternoon to start that journey back toward their love for the work?
Um, my first step, and one of my most abiding steps, is to focus on the exhalation.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, where you are, whatever you're doing, because the breath is one of the only ways that we can consciously interact with our autonomic nervous system, right? Where our body is, of course, always interacting with our autonomic nervous system, but oftentimes it's out of our control, right? We don't, we can't control whether we jump or not when there's a scary movie on and all that stuff. But we know that the slowing and lengthening of the exhalation is a way to, as I mentioned a minute ago, to promote that parasympathetic, right, nervous system activation, that rest and digest portion of the autonomic nervous system, right? We can know this by its inverse, right? When a boxer is preparing for the bell to ring, right, for the next round to go fight, they're doing the opposite, right? They're taking,
Mm-hmm.
right, those really sharp, harsh, excitatory breaths, right, because they want to do the opposite. They want to stimulate their sympathetic nervous system, right? They are literally going to fight, right? So they want
Yes.
that sympathetic activation. So we want to do the opposite. And I find that when we can truly calm our bodies down and just be very present, just in the moment where we are, just feeling our feet on the floor, just feeling our hands contacting our client's scalp, right? Just noticing the most mundane parts of life. That's when we can truly feel just that abundance of the present moment, right? It doesn't mean that everything is great and rosy and that there are no problems, right? It doesn't solve anything, because life isn't a problem to be solved, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just means that we can be here and feel the richness of our life. And I think if we can just let ourselves notice those tiny details of the present moment, it means that we can inhabit our life, or at least just that one breath, we can inhabit it a little more fully, right? And then we do it again and again and again. And then we can start to just feel that resonance of, right, the present moment. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that's how we start. And I think it has to be those tiny, tiny, tiny little details, right? I think if we try to talk ourselves out of feeling flat, it doesn't work, right? Just like, when your mom says, no, everything's fine, don't worry, right? We know that that's bullshit, right?
Yeah.
Excuse my language, right? We know that kind of, everything is okay rationale, it isn't true because it doesn't feel right to us. So my feeling is the way we get out of being flat is not to try to convince ourselves that everything is okay, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just to feel, right, this abundance of the present moment. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we build on that slowly and slowly and slowly, and know that we're not going to fix anything. We're not going to make the world wonderful all of a sudden, right? But we're just going to be here in this moment and feel what it has to give us.
Mm-hmm. A friend of mine recently retired from massage and has taken up sourdough as a new hobby.
Yep,
I
it's
was
a full-time
curious.
hobby.
I was curious, and partly the answer was I needed something to do with my time. I needed to learn something new, and there's so much to learn about making a good sourdough. But more importantly, keeping your hands engaged and watching. If you watch someone like a TV chef, they'll do things quickly. And then I watch
Right.
her knead the dough, and it's all slow and rhythmical, and you can almost taste the love that
Mm-hmm.
goes into that making process, that slowing down, and not
Yeah.
overworking the dough, not knocking the air out of it, not stretching it too far. It's just an interesting thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my wife became obsessed about 10 years ago. We inherited a starter that has been alive continuously since the 1870s. So for almost 150 years, that has been
Wow.
passed down from generation to generation. And then a family friend had some, and so split it off so that my wife could have
Yeah.
some. And it is a phenomenal. I mean, I was terrified of it for years, right? Because of course I thought that I was going to kill it. But it's incredible to engage with this living thing. And it really, I hadn't thought about it before you offered that description, but it is wild to feel this living thing in our hands,
Mm,
right? And to know that, just like our clients, there are ways that we can help it, but we can't force it to do anything, right? It's going to rise on its own. It's going to
mm,
aerate on its own. It's going to ferment on its own, right?
mm, mm,
So all we can do is just assist it along, right? And hopefully, gain something from
mm.
it.
It's a momentary interaction.
Yeah, yeah, yep, yeah. Very interesting.
Over the last couple of years, has there been a time where you've thought, yes, this is it. This is why I do what I do?
Oh man, yeah. So many moments. Yeah. I mean, I think you know, I work with clients across the gamut. Like I specifically don't have a specialty because I really appreciate the variety of my clients. Um, and so uh I don't have like I don't know, sort of big victories, right? Of like, working with, I don't know, post surgery patients and seeing them walk again, or
Mm,
something that's kind of dramatic like that, right? But so I find that my moments of feeling like I am, doing what I am meant to be doing is all of these little times of both feeling how a body has shifted as I'm working compared to, what they felt like, 2 weeks ago or 2 months ago or 2 years ago, right? And then also, in addition, talking with a client after the session or in between sessions, and having them be able to articulate how they have a different relationship to their bodies, right? And how they
Mm.
can feel like they're able to slow themselves down, or they're able to, right, feel some sense of inner calm, or be able to feel that they can let their shoulders drop even in the midst of a very tense day, right? So all of those little moments of really of noticing like, oh yeah, the stuff that we're doing together, it does have an impact, and that's
Mm.
a yeah, that feels like a great gift to me, to be able to see all those little shifts in my clients' lives.
Mm-hmm. So do you think that falling in love with massage is a one-time process, or is it ongoing? Or how
No,
often
I
do we
think
need to do this?
I
How often
think
do we
I
have
think
to
that's
take our
that's a
vows again?
right. It's a fantastic question, and I think it's a really crucial part of cultivating forgiveness of
Mm.
ourselves, right? Because my I think one of the ways that we get into trouble with ourselves and thus with our careers is that we think of our work sort of on like these two extremes, right? That either we are like passionate about massage and we can't wait for the next client, right? Or we are sick and tired of our career and resent the next client that comes in, right? And those both are of course true, and we do feel those in one way or another, but I actually think that most of our careers are spent sort of in this gray area in between, right? Where,
Mm.
some days a massage is really fantastic and it feels like you're on top of the world. And then other days, you might have a really awful massage where a client just really does not respond. But then most days are kind of like, yeah, that session was good. Or,
Mhm.
yeah, that session was fine. Right.
Mhm.
And so I think that for me, the the joy of falling in love with your work is that it is a perpetual possibility, right? We can always love our work more, right? But the way we can do that is by acknowledging that it's never going to be perfect. It's never like we're going to reach this moment and then every massage that we give from here on out is going to be amazing,
Mm.
right? It's acknowledging, just like much of human life, that we're often just kind of swimming in this gray area.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. That's just the nature of the world, right? Is that most of the time it's neither absolutely perfect or absolutely awful. It's somewhere in between. And if
Mm.
we can just accept that reality, then it means we can continue to nourish our love for the work, right? We can continue to fall in love with the work over and over and over again.
Okay, we're going to move on to into a slightly different area. Like you, and this is unusual. It's unusual to see men working within the pregnancy space. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and not only do you work with pregnant people, but you've also written or co-authored a book on pre and perinatal massage therapy. How have you navigated being a male massage therapist in that field?
So, a couple things. First, to be totally clear, I got into this work for purely selfish reasons. I
Yeah.
I took a prenatal training because my wife and I were hoping to have a kid relatively soon, and I,
Mm.
you know, wanted her not to hate me while she was pregnant. So I wanted to have at least a modicum of skills that I could use to make her a little happy.
I have a similar
And so
story.
I yep. I'm guessing that a lot of us do, right? Where we are smart, right? We know that we
Yeah.
don't have too many skills, especially during pregnancy. But if we can use these hands, at least we've got a little chance, right? And so I took the 4-day training, the same one that I now teach, and the same one that the textbook it has grown from. Um, and it was 19 years ago, and I absolutely fell in love with the work. And so I asked if I could assist, if they needed an assistant in the next time they taught it. And I've been, working with Carol Osborne ever since. And I think that the key to, at least for me, being a man doing this work is that I come from a place of humility, and I come from a place of not knowing, right? I have never been pregnant. I have never experienced, right, any of the components of pregnancy, right? And I think that actually makes me a better therapist because I don't make assumptions, or I try not to make assumptions about my clients, right? And I actually think that this is now a strategy that I try to use with all of my clients, right? That, there are some occasions where our own personal experience might be useful for the client. But I think more often than not, when we are too tied to, right, the way that our body feels when we do X or Y or Z, right, we actually don't hear all the things that the client is telling us about what their body is experiencing. So ironically, right, my utter lack of understanding of what the pregnant body feels like, I think makes me a better therapist, right? Because I am just there to listen, right? I have the expertise in terms of the hands-on techniques that I can use, but they have the expertise of, right, the experience of being in their bodies. And so my only job is to utilize my own expertise of techniques to try to make their experience in their own bodies a little easier. And that's it.
So if you could go back and give your younger self one piece of advice as a brand new therapist, what would it be?
I think it's to be confident that all of the good things take time. Right? I sort of floated around for the first several years of my career, and I worked in wellness centers and at fancy spas and at not so fancy spas and at the US Open tennis tournament and at a hospice. I volunteered for a while, and all that time I wasn't really sure what I was doing, but I realize now that it was being in all of those different places and seeing all of those different bodies that on a practical level gave me a lot of expertise, or gave me a lot of practice, right? So that was really valuable, but that also I was able to slowly figure out who I was as a therapist and slowly realize that, I didn't want to have a particular niche, or I didn't want to, only work in one way, or, right, I didn't want to only use one modality. And I think those are things that I couldn't have decided upon, right? They were just kind of things that I had to grow into. And so I think knowing that all of those different paths that we take, I think, are valuable in one way or another, even if they may not seem that way in the moment.
I do feel a level of envy for those who do have a niche or a specialty. The business gurus talk about, if you want to be a real therapist, you want to make it in the world, you've got to have a niche. So I remember listening to an episode of the Massage Business Blueprint with Alyssa Haynes. This tremendously freeing episode where the context was just relax and give a great massage. Just relax and give a great massage. And that's been foundational for me over the last few years of people are coming in, they just want a great massage. And amazing things can happen in that time. I find it incredibly freeing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so, and I think it's an interesting uh, part of our profession. This sort of valorizing of having a
Mm.
niche, right? This idea that if you have a niche, it means that you're a better therapist. And I have a feeling, I don't know if I've quite articulated it like this before, but it kind of feels like it it comes out of a certain sense of insecurity in our profession and kind of
Mm.
wanting to be more, more medical or whatever, right? And
Yes.
if, like, if you only work on athletes with shoulder problems, that means that
Hmm.
you have, right, some kind of, incredible competency or something. And I'm sure that that's true for those therapists who only work on athletes with shoulder problems, but I also think that it is one of those fascinating things that, like, every human is inhabiting a body, right?
Mm.
And so maybe our niche is just working on every humans that have bodies. Right? Because we know we can give something to all those people. We know we can help in one way or another all those people. So why isn't that good enough?
Mm. It was a general practitioner who said to me once, when I asked about a specialist, said, "Ah, oh, specialists. I call them partialists."
Ah! That's fantastic. Well, it's funny that you say that, because I was about to say, like, you know, a general practitioner as a doctor, right, obviously is not limiting their, or at least in most cases, is not
Mm.
limiting their practice to who they see. And that's kind of how I see us, right? Like,
Mm.
I don't know, I wouldn't only want to, be a wrist surgeon, right? And
Mm.
only work on people's wrists all day, right? And I feel the same way about massage, that there is just, I don't know, every session is different, every body
Yeah.
is different, every client is different. So I want it all. I want to feel that whole big beautiful range
Mm.
of us.
I love variety in the work that I do, and every now and then I look at that people who are highly specialized in what they do and have a love for that very minute thing. And I was looking at a dumpling maker just recently. All he's
Mm,
done for the last 40 years is make dumplings. He just makes
yep.
this dumpling, and I don't speak Korean. If I did, I'd love to ask, what is it that gets him out of bed in the
Yeah.
morning, that
Yeah.
all he is excited about is making that dumpling and making it as
Yeah.
well as he can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It is absolutely fascinating. I mean, and but also talk about being in the present moment, right? Like, I
Mm.
feel like the only way you can sustain that kind of incredibly repetitive activity, right, is by having some, sense or some ability, right, to just be there, to just find that flow state. And I mean, and that is an amazing ability.
Mm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm glad I get to do more than just making one kind of dumpling.
Yes, absolutely. Maybe I'll
I
learn
don't think they'd be
Korean.
very good if I made them. Yeah.
Uh, is there one key message you'd like our listeners to take away from your journey?
Hmm. Well, I don't know if there's a key message, but the thing that I have been thinking about a lot recently, and that uh, has become more and more a part of my practice, is the idea that massage works best when we are a dyad, right? And so we, the classic example of a dyad is the mother and the baby, right, who are symbiotically linked, and are almost like a unit, right, unto themselves, that the two of them makes. And I think that there is something that is very profound about our opportunity, the fact that we, hour after hour, have the chance to be with our clients in this pretty unique way that's unlike much of the rest of their lives, right? There's little talking. It's very calm, right? We're just focusing on their head and their heart and their bodies, right? And I think that it can be an incredibly nourishing experience, right? Both for the client, but also for us, if we realize, right, that it's the engagement of these two people together that is what makes the true wonder, I think, of our profession. That we are giving something to the client, and also the client is giving something to us. And so I think if we can really center our own bodies as being just as important as our client's body, right? If we can think of this as a relationship that benefits both client and therapist, right? Of course, keeping all of the boundaries that we need to keep and all of the ethical guidelines that we need to keep. We, I think, have the chance to, right, make a big difference in our clients' lives and also get great sustenance and happiness in our own lives. I think we're pretty lucky to be doing the work that we get to do.
I do love it. And I can't imagine being anywhere else right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Where can our listeners go to find out more about what you do, David?
The best thing is to go to my teaching website, which is bodybrainbreath.com. I also have a website for my private practice, which is fullbreathmassage.com. But for all the massage therapists out there, you can learn more about my teaching. You can sign up for my weekly newsletter that you so kindly mentioned, David. And all of that is at bodybrainbreath.com.
So you head to bodybrainbreath.com if you want to learn to love your work again. You'll be in the right place. You can help to learn to help your clients feel like they're better in their bodies. You can help to feel better in your own body at the same time with wonderful courses like Give a Great Massage Again, Pour, Don't Push, The Solution is in the Sides, Working with the Ribs. There's a whole gamut of courses, a smorgasbord of choice there for you. I've really enjoyed our conversation today, David.
Likewise.
I hope that I get to meet you in person someday.
Yes, it's a plan. We'll make it happen one way or another. Yeah.
If you have enjoyed today's episode of the Folding Towels podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe through your favorite listening app. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, you can leave us a rating and or a review. The transcript of this episode will be available on our website, foldingtowelspodcast.com.au, with transcripts of this and many of our other episodes and a back catalogue of over 100 episodes. Perhaps you've got a suggestion of who you would like to hear from. Why not send us an email to foldingtowelspodcast.com.au. Thank you so much for your time today, David, and I look forward to speaking to you again someday.
That sounds great. Thank you, David.